Okay, Mrs. H Psychology. This is for paper 2, the approaches section, and this is another Wundt question. So Wundt has come up in these sample questions and also now a couple of the actual papers as well. So this one was discuss Wundt's role in the emergence of psychology as a science. So let's see what we need for that. So I'm going to go through some AO1 content and also some discussion areas. All right, so this has also come up as an 8 marker now in this summer's paper as well. So you do need a little bit more detail for it. So first of all, in terms of the AO1 content, Wundt was the first to open a lab in Leipzig to develop psychology as a separate scientific study. A subject separated from philosophy. He also was the first to train a team of scientists trying to be more standardized, objective in their techniques, for example, using a ticking metronome to record their sensations and really attempting to just make it a lot more measurable and objective. He also developed introspection, and that was a way of systematically reporting on their experiences, on those internal experiences they were having as they were listening to the metronome, for example. He developed objective lab techniques, focusing on very accurate measurements and being able to replicate, so using very objective techniques. He also influenced others. So, for example, behaviorists then developed their own objective research methods, and social learning theory and cognitive both were influenced in terms of studying cognitive internal mental processes that Wundt had started, but they attempted to develop that by making them that study of those internal processes much more objective. So that covers a lot of the AO1 that we could use. And then obviously we want to go on to discuss that. So we could say, right, strengths of it, very scientific, really controlled, very standardized. You know, the scientific methods were begun with Wundt's work. And so he was very instrumental in the emergence of psychology. He also recognized his own limitation of his own work, you know, that the process was still subjective. But despite that, others, like the behaviorists and cognitive, as mentioned, went on to develop the area further. So they took his lead and took his various areas that they developed individually. So behaviorists developed scientific objective methods, and the cognitive developed the study of internal processes more. Okay, so again, he's really instrumental in influencing other approaches to develop psychology further. We know also introspection is still used today. It's in therapy, and so, you know, again, as a study of the human mind, it became very influential in its own right. We could then discuss other areas, so the problems with it. Obviously, Wundt recognized that his work was still very subjective, despite his attempts at objectivity, and although he attempted to standardize and control procedures, participants were still reporting their own personal experiences. So in other words, they're still self-reporting. So it wasn't truly objective. And if it's not truly objective, you can't verify those reports. You know, that is, it's internal processes, it's introspection. So scientific study of psychology needed to be objective, so that was a limitation. Also, another limitation is really that the humanists would argue that although the other approaches are trying to be very objective and very scientific and develop psychology down a scientific route, others, like the humans, reject that scientific objective study of human behavior. And they believe in a more phenomenological approach. In other words, a more subjective approach to studying humans. They believe that the subjective view is actually more important than objective reality. So again, they were influenced as a result of Wundt, if you like. They were influenced as a rejection against that very scientific approach. So that covers most of the material that you need. It's this particular question, certainly it covers enough for this 3 marker. This was discuss Wundt's role in the emergence of psychology as a science. This is what was on the mark scheme for that. I will add to that when we get the mark scheme for the summer 19 paper. If there's anything different, I will add it on.